Taxation, Title 3, Estate and Donors Taxes. Chapter 1, Estate Tax, Section 84. Rates of Estate Tax. There shall be levied, assessed, collected, and paid upon the transfer of the net estate as determined in accordance with Section 85 and 86 of every decedent, whether resident or non-resident of the Philippines. A tax at the rate of 6% based on the value of such net estate. Section 85. Gross estate. The value of the gross estate of the decedent shall be determined by including the value of the time at the time of his death of all property, real or personal, tangible or intangible, wherever situated, provided, however, that in the case of a non-resident decedent who at the time of his death was not a citizen of the Philippines, only that part of the entire gross estate which is situated in the Philippines shall be included in his taxable estate. A. Decedent interest. To the extent of the interest therein of the decedent at the time of his death. B. Transfer in contemplation of death, to the extent of any interest therein of which the decedent has at any time made a transfer by trust or otherwise in contemplation of or intended to take effect in possession or enjoyment at or after death, or of which he has at any time made a transfer by trust or otherwise, under which he has retained for his life or for any period which does not in fact end before his death. 1. The possession or enjoyment of or the right to the income from the property. Or 2. The right, either alone or in conjunction with any person, designate the person who shall possess or enjoy the property or the income therefrom, except in case of a bona fide sale for an adequate and full consideration in money or money's worth. C. Revocable transfer. 1. To the extent of any interest therein, of which the decedent has at any time made transfer by trust or otherwise, where the enjoyment thereof was subject at the date of his death to any change through the exercise of a power by the decedent alone or by the decedent in conjunction with any other person, to alter, amend, revoke, or terminate, or where any such power is relinquished in contemplation of the decedent death. 2. For the purpose of this subsection, the power to alter, amend, or revoke shall be considered to exist on the date of the decedent's death, even though the exercise of the power is subject to a precedent giving of notice, or even though the alteration, amendment, or revocation takes effect only on the expiration of a stated period after the exercise of the power, whether or not on or before the date of the decedent's death, notice has been given or the power has been exercised. In such cases, proper adjustment shall be made representing the interests which would have been excluded from the power if the decedent had lived, and for such purpose, if the notice has not been given or the power has not been exercised on or before the date of his death, such notice shall be considered to have been given or the power exercised on the date of his death. D. Property passing under general power of appointment. To the extent of any property passing under a general power of appointment exercised by the decedent, 1. By will, or 2. By deed executed in contemplation of or intended to take effect in possession or enjoyment at or after his death, or by deed under which he has retained for his life or any period not ascertainable without reference to his death, or for any period which does not in fact end before his death. A. The possession or enjoyment of, or the right to the income from the property, or B. The right, either alone or in conjunction with any person, to designate the persons who shall possess or enjoy the property or the income therefrom, except in case of a bona fide sale for an adequate and full consideration in money or money's worth. E. Proceeds of life insurance. To the extent of the amount receivable by the estate of the deceased, his executor or administrator, as insurance under policies taken out by the decedent upon his own life, irrespective of whether or not the insured retained the power of revocation, or to the extent of the amount receivable by any beneficiary designated in the policy of insurance, except when it is expressly stipulated that the designation of the beneficiary is irrevocable. F. Prior interest. Except as otherwise specifically provided therein, subsections B, C, and E of this section shall apply to the transfer, trust, estate, interest, rights, powers, and relinquishment of powers as severally enumerated and described therein, whether made, created, arising, existing, exercised, or relinquished before or after the effectivity of this code. G. Transfer for insufficient consideration. If any one of the transfers, trust, interests, rights, or powers enumerated and described in subsection B, C, and D of this section is made, created, exercised, or relinquished for a consideration in money or money's worth, but is not a bona fide sale for an adequate and full consideration in money or money's worth, there shall be included in the gross estate only the excess of the fair market value at the time of the death of the property, otherwise to be included on account of such transaction over the value of the consideration received therefore by the decedent. H. Capital of the surviving spouse. The capital of the surviving spouse of a decedent shall not, for the purpose of this chapter, be deemed a part of his or her gross estate.